Hey guys, so I've decided to do a quick introduction into a game called Weiss Schwarz. Now what Weiss is, it's a game where you can pick your favorite anime, manga, video game, or even VTuber company. Also they've introduced some Western cartoons as well. So you can pick your favorite title and you can build a deck around it. And one of the best parts is, to me, is that the company does a really good job of getting the mechanics of a set to feel like the characters in the set. Weiss has three basic card types. The one you'll see the most common is a character card. This is a character card. So down here in the bottom of a card is the card name. Then for English cards, there's the card name in Japanese here. Yeah, so down the bottom here we have traits. They're just used as descriptors and they're referenced in usually card abilities, as you might have a ability that can only affect certain types. And then you have the set symbol just up in the corner here. And then characters have their amount of power, which is down here. And above that is their set code, just there. And then you have their card text, which is just down here, which has all their rules and stuff, how they work. And then up the top corner here, even though this is their trigger symbol, which this one doesn't have any, for example. And then over here, so on the top corner of the card, you have the level, and then their cost. And just below cost, there's a counterattack symbol, which is required. The only time you can play a card on your opponent's turn is if it has this symbol and at a certain point in the game. And the last thing about character cards is right down bottom is down here. There is it's the character's soul. So this is usually in symbols. So if it's more than one soul, we'll have more than one of these symbols in a line down here. And that is all the basics for a character. So the next basic type is an event. So this is like, I guess, a spell card or a sorcery card in other card games. So this is the same. So it has the name. It has the Japanese name, which in this case is the same as the English name. It has the set number. It has the set symbol. Then they'll always have their rules as well, because they specifically need rules. Yeah, and then they also have the trigger symbol up top. They also have a level, a cost, and events can also have the counterattack symbol. That's all for events. It's just a basic overview of what an event is. And the last basic card type is a climax. So climaxes are, rather than portrait, the climaxes are all landscape. So they also have, so in the top right corner of the card, which is in this case the top left, is the trigger symbol. So this one actually has a trigger symbol, unlike the last two examples. Then they have their rule text, which is the first part is always what the thing does when you play it. And the second part always describes what its trigger symbol does. Then they also have the card names in Japanese, as well as the set number. And then in this case, the set symbol is up top. So that is the basics of all three card types. So this is the basic layout for a game of Weiss. So you have your deck. Your deck goes here. You have your waiting room, which is basically your graveyard for magic terms. Up the top you have your memory, which is basically an additional zone, which doesn't come up all the time, but it's not often interacted with either. So it's not really like banished or exiled in other game terms. It's just, yeah, so sometimes cards will go there and sometimes cards will be removed from there based on rules. Then you have on the board, you can play a maximum of 5 character cards. So you have 3 in your center stage as well as 2 in your backstage. Only your center stage ones actually do any attacking. The backstage are all just supporting your center stage. And then you have a climax zone, which is where you play your climaxes. Then you have your stock along the side here, which is basically your main resource in the game. And down the bottom is your clock, and this is your damage. So as you get damaged, your damage goes into your clock. And then over on the side here you have your level. And your level determines what level of card you can play. And once you get to level 4, you lose the game. The main goal in Weiss is to get your opponent to level 4. So with the phases, the very first phase for Weiss is the stand-up phase. So that's when you, in Magic terms, you untap everything. So with Weiss, you have a normal card, face up card is standing up. When you turn them sideways for abilities, they're called rested. And when they also have a thing where they can be reversed, or usually happens in battle. Yeah, so during your stand-up phase, your rested characters all stand up. And then you go, the next phase is the draw phase, which you get to draw 1 card. So you draw 1 card from your deck. The very next phase is the clock phase. So what the clock phase lets you do, it lets you take 1 card from hand and you put it into your clock. And you can draw 2 more cards. So you can take a card you do not need to get 2 more cards you might need. And then the next phase is basically the main phase. So during the main phase, it's when you play the majority of your events. It's when you play your characters. And you're also able to freely move characters around. So let's say I had a character here, here, and here, and here. And let's say I wanted to. So you're able to freely move around. So I can move these to any position I want. It don't have to be any sort of thing. I can move them anywhere I want. And you're also able to play over characters. So let's say I have 5 characters out, and I want to play another character. So you can then play your other character over one, and the other one will then go to your waiting room. Yeah. And then the next phase is the climax phase. So this is when you can play climaxes. And yeah, so you can play a climax, then its effect happens, and then you have the attack phase. Actually, yeah, so with the attack phase itself, you declare an attack. For each character, you can declare an attack. You can then trigger. So you do a trigger. So if you have a deck, when you attack with a character, so they start off standard, you attack with them by resting them. You then trigger, so you reveal top card of your deck, and then you apply the trigger effects. So whatever the trigger symbol on the card is, then gets applied. So in this case, this one is a trigger with Plus's Soul. Yeah, so the card you then trigger, then go into your stock to be used later as a resource. And then the next thing or step what happens is your opponent can then do counterattacks. So if they have a card with a counterattack symbol, they're then able to play that. Usually they'll be power buffs, so they'll allow them to win the fight instead of losing it. And then once the counter step is done, then you have a damage step. So this is when you do damage equal to your soul, which in this case is 2, plus for 1 from here. to your opponent. So your opponent then reveals the top 3 cards of their deck. So in this case, so we'd reveal the 3 cards and then they'd go into our clock. So that's how you take damage. And then if you reveal a climax, the damage is cancelled. So it just doesn't go through. The next step in the attack phase is the battle step. So that is when the characters fight. The character with the highest power wins, and the opponent, the loser, gets reversed. So let's say we lost that fight, we'd then get reversed. And if the powers are equal, they both get reversed. So the last part of the attack phase is the encore step. So what happens here, this is when all the reversed characters are then sent to the waiting room. So we don't leave battlefields until the final phase. Yeah, but you do the first steps for each character attacking, and once they're all done, you then have the encore step. And also, when your cards do leave the stage to the waiting room, you're able to pay free stock and return them to the stage where they were originally rested. And then there's an end phase, and then it's the opponent's turn. So that is sort of the basic turn structure of the game, and I will do another video going more in depth, as well as do probably an example game for how a game's played.